So I thought it would be fun to do a little video about Avowed, this new RPG from Obsdian Entertainment. So I want to start off by saying I'm a huge fan of Obsdian games like Tyranny, New Vegas, Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, or The Outer Worlds. And I'm pretty sure I haven't finished any of them. I guess I just got distracted by playing League of Legends with my friends or other games, which is the usual reason I stopped playing a game. I should really get back to play these games again, especially Fallout New Vegas. Like, goddamn! So this is not meant as expert advice to the game studio Obsdian about how Avowed should be as a game, but just what a casual fan would want to see in the game. And that casual fan is me. So let's just chat a little bit by the campfire and talk about what I would want to see in the first-person RPG Avowed. So I know some people have already remarked how the melee combat and the combat in general seems kinda clunky, especially the melee combat. And Obsdian has already responded to the feedback and are saying they're going to work on it. So I won't really hold it against them until the game is actually out. So, we're not really going to talk about that part specifically. And I don't know, I obviously compare Avowed to Skyrim. And Skyrim is one of my favorite games of all time. And though I truly love Skyrim, I wouldn't say that the combat in Skyrim either is something to be truly starstruck by. Don't get me wrong, I love shouting NPCs off mountains as much as the next guy. But swinging your axe from side to side isn't exactly the most groundbreaking kind of combat in the world. But hey, what do I know about Skyrim melee combat? I always revert back to being, a stealth archer and stuff like that, like everybody else. But my point is, I think it's great if they can improve upon the combat, of course. But for me personally, that's not the real kicker. What makes or breaks the game for me is player freedom. And that means two things for me, which are both reflected in Skyrim. Firstly, that I have a lot of different tools and ways to approach the game. My favorite game genre is immersive sims, so I'm very, very biased on this point. I really just hope that Avowed gives me tons of options to approach the game in all different kinds of ways. And it kind of looks like that might actually be the case. At least from the trailers and the game interviews and stuff like that. But at least from what I can gather from trailers and gameplay, we're going to be able to go into the spirit realm and be invisible and stealth and stuff. And you're going to use your sword and you're going to be able to use magic or both at the same time. Or a wand thingy where you kind of use it like a gun and puff people in the head while you whack them in the head with your sword. That seems kind of cool. But, and I think this is a big but, it's all well and good to get tons of ways to approach the game, but these tools have to stand out and be different. Otherwise, what's the point? For example, it's super great if we get tons of varied ways to approach the game. Like in Skyrim, where you can summon a fire Atronach and cast spells. Or you can charge in headstrong with your warhammer while using a shout you got from the Dark Brotherhood that poisons enemies and makes them weaker while you kill them in melee. So there are different ways to approach the game in Skyrim and different ways to enjoy the combat and the gameplay. But if using a wand versus using a bow doesn't really feel all that different, that kind of defeats the point, no? So that is something they should really pay attention to. And please, please, please make the different magic and spells different. Give me something like in Dishonored, especially the first one, that one was really good, but also Dishonored 2, where I can choose to either stop time, summon tons of rats, blink around, or become a shadow monster. Not that kind of magic gameplay where you just have to choose between different kinds of damage, like in the Destruction School in Skyrim, where it's either sparks and electricity, fire, or ice. But again, from what I can gather from the footage I've seen, it does look like there are tons of different ways to approach the game. Like freezing enemies, blocking them, or just yeeting a molten core fire at them. But we will first truly know how varied the gameplay is when it actually comes out. So yeah. The second part that I really, really hope they get right, and that a lot of people who've played Skyrim would probably agree with me on, is the handcrafted world. Please, please, please do awesome things with the world. I want awesome environments, and like in Skyrim, I want the environment to tell a story. I really, really want show don't tell storytelling, where you don't get forced down exposition, but you have to connect the dots yourself sometime, and look at the environment to understand what's happening. I want to walk into a place and instinctively understand, okay, this feels like a place that existed before I entered it. This is part of a world, not just something that's here for me. Though of course it obviously is, but I really want that illusion of being in another world. I want to feel like I walk around in a breathing world. And it's not just, popping up for my entertainment, but an environment that tells a story and shows it's been lived in. That will be really friggin' cool and something that I really enjoyed about Skyrim and other open world games where they really paid attention to this stuff. What I really want from this game is to be able to, do the first part of the main quest and tutorial and then just go in the total opposite direction of where the quest marker points and just explore the world. And again, I haven't finished Pillars of Eternity 1 or 2, but I have played enough to know that the world is really fascinating and worth exploring and learning about. So I truly hope the lore continues to be amazing in Avowed, and maybe even heightening the experience because you get to experience it in, first person where it's really immersive and you get to really interact with stuff. And I know they will continue the theme with souls and all that jazz. So that should be really interesting because it was kinda interesting in 1 and 2, again the part I played. But the whole theme's about souls and magic and the universe and stuff like that. And if it's quickly alright, I want to let the fantasy nerd in me speak and say that I really hope using a wand and spells works well with melee combat. I really like being like a spellblade where you can both use melee and block and also cast spells. And that it interacts in an awesome way and actually works. I think it could be really fun to both use, melee and spells. And again, we have seen some gameplay with that, those elements. But time will tell how that actually pans out in the game, I suppose. But yeah, again, I'm getting distracted talking about magic and stuff again. So let's go back to talking about the environment and the world. Specifically exploring the world. And again, existing in the world doesn't require me to get, a random encounter every minute to keep me entertained. There's always been a beauty in Skyrim of just wandering around in the mountains, listening to the music and enjoying the nature and the scenery. But that being said, I think that goes hand in hand with awesome events and facing dangers and challenges along the way while you explore an amazing environment. So basically an adventure where you face challenges but where you also can enjoy the environment and explore the environment. So again, I would like random encounters and stuff like that, but that's not the only thing that's important in this. But I also hope it doesn't feel like too cramped. I know the map is going to be around the same size as Outer Worlds, and that they initially have shrunken down on the idea of doing a game map the size of Skyrim. And I have no problem with that, quality over quantity and all that of course. But I still just hope that it still feels like an open world RPG, where the word world is not forgotten, and it still feels like a world. And again, I think it's kind of like the middle path. Of course, I don't want to walk around in an open world, where you just walk around for hours without anything unique or any handcrafted elements. I still want, the quality part of quality and quantity, where you also discover things and encounters and stories and stuff like that. But I really hope that it still feels like you're walking around in a huge fantasy world, where you are not just confined to a little area where you are walled off by mountains or invisible walls or stuff like that. So I really hope that they master the fantasy world and you get to walk around and explore, but still of course experience stories and encounters and stuff like that. And I feel like Deus Ex did it pretty well, where you still were in these smaller spaces, but you still had the freedom to move around and explore areas and stories and stuff like that. So I know it can be done, but yeah. Whether they choose to be a little more open world, which it doesn't sound like, and it sounds like they're shrinking it more down and doing more quality in a confined space, that's totally okay. At the end of the day, I simply hope the game is going to be fun. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I know a lot of developers at Obsdian are doing their very best to make this game as good as possible. So let's just hope this game will be amazing. And hey, who knows? Maybe I'll actually make a video about Avowed when it releases. That would require me to actually finish an Obsdian game though. That sounds kinda challenging, I don't know. I'll have to think about it. So yeah, thanks for watching, and let's see what great stories, games and other awe-inspiring experiences we can dive deep into the next time. See ya!